The major elements of new grammar in Clayton Croy's Primer Lesson 6 are the introduction of what I call cross-dressing nouns, nouns that take on the endings of the declension that is typical of the other gender. So feminine nouns like he eremos, desert, which obviously eremos takes the typical second declension endings that many masculine and neuter nouns do. Or masculine nouns of the first declension like prophetes, ho prophetes or ho mathetes, where the nominative, accusative, and vocative singulars and dative singulars all look more like feminine nouns of the first declension, of course all the plural forms as well. So with this lesson comes the complication that we can no longer just look at endings and see agreement or non-agreement. We have to really look at each word and think, okay, is this word masculine or feminine? Grammatically speaking, and not just judging from the last letters, the endings that we've been hopefully memorizing. And the second major element in this lesson is Greek prepositions. And with Greek prepositions, one of the essential things to notice is that every preposition governs its object in a particular case or cases. Thus, the preposition en, which tends to mean in, is always followed by a noun in the dative case. If the noun is not in the dative case, it's not an object of the preposition en. And then we've seen a few prepositions like meta or dia or peri, where they can govern an object in one of two different cases. Meta can be followed by a noun in the genitive or the accusative case, and meta will actually signify something different depending on whether it's followed by a noun in the genitive or a noun in the accusative. So we have to pay great attention to that. And if it wasn't clear from the PowerPoint or from the textbook, a major thing now to keep in mind is that if a noun is the object of a preposition, we have to think about that noun's case only in relationship to the preposition and the meaning of the preposition. That is to say, when we see an accusative after the preposition eis or pros, we can't think of an accusative the way we have been up to this point. Oh, direct object. We have to think of it rather as, oh, this is the accusative object of the preposition eis or pros. If we don't do this, we will mess up our Greek sentences left and right. So think of the case of the object of a preposition, or think of object of a preposition as a function that trumps all other case functions that you've learned hitherto. If it fits that description, this noun is the object of this preposition, that is key, and pretty much everything else you've heard about case up to this point doesn't apply. All right, in lesson 6 then, we encounter first this sentence. Pempamen tous adelphus tous kakus, ektes ecclesias, kai eistein eremon. We start with a simple verb, pempamen, pempo, I send, now with the first plural, the we ending, hence we send or we are sending. Tous adelphus, masculine accusative plural of brother. Accusative here signaling direct object. We are sending the brothers. Then tous kakus. Now this is an article and an adjective, agreeing with this article and noun in gender, number, and case. We have attributive position, so this adjective is simply describing this noun. We are sending the wicked brothers. Then we have two prepositional phrases, ek, which is always followed by its object in the genitive case, and eis, which is always followed by its object in the accusative case. Out of the assembly or out of the church and into the desert. In the second sentence, we find ho theos mene en tois uranois, bale de tus ponerus angelus eis tein gain. Ho theos, nominative case, subject of the sentence, subject of the verb mene. God dwells, or God remains. Then we have a prepositional phrase, en, followed by a noun with its article in the dative case, in the heavens. Bale de here, signaling a new and potentially different thought, but bale, he throws, or he casts, tous ponerus angelus. Tous angelus, accusative masculine plural, accusative direct object of bale. He throws the angels. Ponerus, an adjective that agrees with this, with angelus, and shows up in attributive position. He throws the wicked angels into the earth. Eis tein gain. En te hora tes doxes lege hokurios prostas cardias ton teknon. This begins with a prepositional phrase, en te hora, en followed by a noun in the dative case, in the hour. Then we see a noun and its article in the genitive case, tes doxes. This will be a genitive describing hora. So in the hour of glory. If you wrote in the hour of the glory, that's fine too. Lege hokurios. Well, hokurios is in the nominative case, so it's going to be the subject of lege. The Lord says, or the Lord speaks, pros tas cardias ton teknon. Pros followed by is a preposition, followed by tas cardias in the accusative case as its object. To the hearts. And then ton teknon, the genitive, noun with its article, tells us whose hearts the Lord is speaking to the hearts of the children. Hoi agathoi prophetai ginoskousi ten alethean perites stoes kai tu thanatu. And it's a question. Hoi agathoi prophetai. This is one of those nouns. It's a masculine noun, but it takes basically first declension endings. So the alpha iota ending could throw us. We might not perceive the agreement between hoi and agathoi and prophetai. But they do all agree they're all masculine, nominative plurals. Being nominative, they're also collectively the subject of ginoskousi, and agathoi is tucked in attributive position, so it's just going to describe prophets simply. The good prophets know. The good prophets know what? Tein aletheon, a noun in the accusative case, direct object, they know the truth. The truth, peri tes zoes kai tu thanatu. Peri is a preposition that can take its object in the accusative case or in the genitive case, and it means something different, depending. Here it's followed by two nouns, linked by kai, both in the genitive case. So peri will mean about or concerning. The truth concerning life and death, or the life and the death if you prefer, but in English we tend not to use the like that with abstract qualities. Truth, justice, not the truth, the justice. And it's a question, so do the good prophets know? Is how we would finally phrase that in English. Do the good prophets know the truth about death and, about life and death? Dia tu angelu tu kuriu acuete perites hodu tes zoes. Here we have dia followed by the genitive. Dia is another of those prepositions that will mean something different if it's followed by the genitive or the accusative, followed by a noun in the genitive or the accusative. Here with the genitive it means through, as in agency, by means of the action of this entity. Tu kuriu is another noun, a different noun in the genitive case. And I should just note here, don't let the fact that these are all genitive masculine singulars mislead you into thinking about agreement, because none of these are adjectives. So that just doesn't apply at all. We have one block of meaning, a second block of meaning, and this second block is describing the angel. Through the angel of the Lord, akuete, you are hearing, or you hear, and it's a plural you, peri tes hadu tes zoes. Same principle here with all of these feminine genitive singulars. Note, hadu is one of those cross-dressing nouns. It looks like a masculine genitive singular ending, but the noun itself is feminine, so this is a feminine genitive singular ending. But again, it's all articles and nouns, no adjectives. So we have block number 1 and block number 2. Whoops, I just did not mean to do that. So, are hearing about the way. What way? The second genitive now describes it, about the way of life. Metaton teknon, hai adelphai balusi lithus eis tein thalasan. Metaton teknon is a prepositional phrase. Meta is yet another preposition whose meaning changes depending on the case of its object. Meta followed by a noun in the accusative means after. Meta followed by a noun in the genitive, as here, means with. So with the children, hai adelphai, nominative, hence the subject of the main verb balusi. The sisters are throwing, lithus, noun in the accusative case, direct object of the verb. Sisters are throwing, the sisters are throwing stones. Eis tein thalasan, simple prepositional phrase, into the sea. Number 7, propheta, eches kalus lagus apotheu, kai blepes tein doxan tes basileas? Question mark. Propheta is a special vocative form of the cross-dressing noun ha prophetes. So this is direct address. Prophet, O prophet. Eches, you have, except as a question, do you have? Do you have kalus lagus, an adjective and a noun agreeing in gender, number, and case? Kalus simply describing lagus. Do you have noble words from God? Apo followed by a noun in the genitive. You know, in all honesty, this probably could have been better written apo tu theou. That is much more common. But from God. And blepes, do you see? Tein doxan, noun in the accusative, direct object, the glory. Tes basileas, noun in the genitive, describing the noun glory. Do you see the glory of the kingdom? Number 8. Ente eschate hemera, pempe hakurios tus angelus ap uranu, kai hoi angeloi lambanusi tus pistus ek tu cosmo. En signals that we're going to be looking for a prepositional phrase. Te hemera is the object of the preposition, all in the dative case. Eschate, also feminine dative singular, in attributive position, describes hemera, in the last day. Pempe hokurios, nominative case, subject of pempe. Pempe by itself, he, she, or it sends. Hokurios renames the he. The Lord sends tus angelus, accusative, direct object. The Lord sends the angels ap uranu, simple prepositional phrase, from heaven, where the angels are coming from when they're being sent. Kai hoi angeloi lambanusi. Again, a nominative now functioning as the subject of this verb with a third plural ending, they receive, the they being hoi angeloi, and the angels receive tous pistus. Article and an adjective in agreement, no noun that agrees with it, so a substantival use of the adjective, receive the faithful. Whence do they receive the faithful? Ek tu kosmou, out of the world. En te eremo didaske hophios tu hagiu tas adelphos peri tu namu. En te eremo, another prepositional phrase. Notice the cross-dressing noun here. Te eremo, both words are actually feminine singular dative. In the desert, didaske hophios, nominative obviously, hophios, subject of didaske, the sun teaches, the sun is teaching. The sun tu hagiu, both genitive masculine singular, no other noun that could go with it. And here I just want to point out that tu namu cannot be taken with tu hagiu, as if somehow the law and holy go together, because tu namu is bracketed out as part of this prepositional phrase. So that's kind of a parenthesis, peri followed by the genitive concerning the law. Tu hagiu here shows us an adjective being used substantively, of the Holy One. So the Son of the Holy One is teaching tas adelphos, accusative, direct object, the sisters about the law. Then, in number 10, hoi periton prophetein anthropoi, menusi metaton matheton. This is a bit tricky, but what we find here is hoi going with anthropoi, and in between is sandwiched not an adjective, but a prepositional phrase that is functioning as an adjective, by sticking the prepositional phrase concerning the prophet in attributive position, in between the article and the noun. The Greek author is showing us that the periton prophetein is describing hoi anthropoi. So the people around the prophet, menusi, remain, metaton matheton, with the disciples. This sentence, number 11, starts with meta, now followed by the accusative. In number 10, we found meta followed by the genitive, meaning with the disciples. Here we find meta followed by the accusative, meaning after. Meta ton nomon kai tous prophetas, after the law and the prophets. Thelomen akuein, thelo, I wish, thelomen, we wish, or we want. Akuein, an infinitive, we want to hear. Tu lagu tu adelphu, a noun in the genitive here, tu lagu, as object of the verb akuo, which can take its direct object in either the accusative or the genitive case. It's a little bit weird that way. And then a second noun in the genitive, telling us about the word. Whose word? The word of the brother. So, after the law and the prophets, we want to hear the brother's word, the word of the brother. Number 12, ou ginoskomen, a first plural verb, ginoskomen, we know, negated, ou, we don't know. Tas hadus, providing us with the feminine accusative singular object. Again, notice the endings of those two words do not look alike. Nevertheless, they do agree grammatically because each of those two words is feminine, plural, accusative. We do not know the ways. This is now followed by a noun in the genitive case describing ways, the ways of God. En to cosmo, in the world. We don't know the ways of God in the world, but pisteuamen to theo. We believe God, or we trust God. Here again, pisteuo almost always takes its object in the dative case. We could then translate this, as I just did, we trust God. If you feel better, you can turn this into a kind of a locative, not really a locative, but we trust in God. Either way. Number 13, uk ex ergon tu namu lambane anthropos zoein ap uranu. Now, the opening here is a prepositional phrase, ex ergon, that has been negated. Not out of works, or not on the basis of works, not from works. What works? Works tu namu, a noun in the genitive describing another noun. Not from works of the law. Lambane anthropos. Does a person receive, anthropos, nominative subject of lambane, zoein, accusative, direct object of lambane, life, ap uranu, simple prepositional phrase, from heaven. We might translate this more typically in English, a person receives life from heaven, not from works of the law, not on the basis of works of the law. Then, last of this set, di anthropus kakus, legomen proston theon. Just start here with a legomen. Lego, I speak. Legomen, we speak. We speak proston theon. Simple prepositional phrase, we speak to God. Di, followed by an object in the accusative case, means on account of or because of. So because of people. Then we have this adjective, kakus, which agrees with anthropus in gender numbering case, and so is taken here in attributive position to describe it. Because of wicked people or evil people, we are speaking to God. Some sentences from the Septuagint and the New Testament, just to keep it real, as it were. Kai sunetellesen ho theos, en te hemera te hekte, ta erga autu. Kai kat epausen, te hemera te hebdome, apopanton ton ergon autu. Now, a number of these words you have to look up in the vocabulary at the end of this lesson. But a lot of it you can also make sense of based on what you already know. Hotheos, God, in the nominative case, thus the subject of this verb, which we learn means he, she, or it completed. So God completed, or God finished. En te hemera te hekte. En te hemera, en, the preposition followed by its object, in the dative case, in the day. Te hemera itself agreeing with another article and adjective, all feminine dative singular. This adjective meaning sixth, describing day. So God completed in the sixth day, ta erga. We're going to take it as accusative here because there's no more room for it to be the nominative subject of a verb. God completed the works. Whose works? This is a vocabulary word for not a vocabulary word, but a word you have to look up for now, but we'll learn these pronouns very soon. His works. God finished his works in the 6th day, and he rested. Kat epausen, another word you just have to look up. He rested te hemerate hebdome. Exactly the same syntax as we saw up there. He rested in the 7th day. Notice you don't need a preposition en here. We didn't need it here either. We could just delete that and it'll mean the same thing. It's basically location, locating the action now in time rather than space. He rested in the 7th day. Apo panton ton ergon autou. Apo ton ergon, you recognize from the works. Autou from his works. And then panton is an adjective, which we won't learn for a long time, but it means all. And it's, in this case, obviously agrees with ton ergon. From all his works. If you're really observant, you'll notice something weird here. Panton ton ergon is technically predicative position. Adjective, article, noun. But the adjective for all, panton, is one of those few exceptional adjectives that only shows up in predicate position, never attributive. Then from 2 Chronicles, this is the line from the Queen of Sheba after her visit to Solomon. Alethinos ha logos. Alethinos is an adjective meaning genuine or reliable. Ha logos, you all know. All agreeing in gender, number, and case, and in predicate position. So ha logos alethinos, the word is true. Then you have to look up hon, that's a relative pronoun, which, the word is true, which I heard, ente mu, in the land of me, in my land, periton logon su, about the words of you, about your words, kai peri te sophias su, and about your wisdom. That's a little tricky because it has a lot of unfamiliar vocabulary. In the New Testament section of the exercises, to sabaton diaton anthropon egeneto, kai ha anthropos dia to sabaton. Key phrase here is dia, followed by the accusative. On account of this, or because of this. Dia to anthropon, on account of a human being. Dia to sabaton, on account of the Sabbath. And the spine of the phrase, as it were, is to sabaton egeneta dia. The Sabbath came into being on account of the human being, and not the human being on account of the Sabbath. Kai ho Jesus, metaton matheton autou, anechoresen prostein thalasan. Jesus, masculine nominative singular, ap e choresan, a word you have to look up, departed. And Jesus departed. Meta, followed by a genitive object, with the disciples of him. Jesus departed with his disciples. Pros, followed by the accusative, to the sea, or toward the sea. And then the opening words of Galatians. Paulos apostolos, uk ap anthropon ouda di anthropou, alla dia Jesu Christu. Paul, obviously. Apostolos, an apostle. This noun is technically, this nominative is technically in apposition to this noun. That means it is renaming Paulos. It is giving him another attribute. Paul, an apostle. and then a series of prepositional phrases describing the source or non-source of his apostleship. So we get a little practice in prepositional phrases. Paul, an apostle not from human beings, nor through a human being, but through Jesus Christ. As we come to the English to Greek sentences, we do this whole process in reverse. Do the men in the assembly know that the prophet is teaching the slaves about the law? It's a question. We'll turn it around later. The men in the assembly know is the basic spine. The men know. The people know. It's probably what we're looking for here. The people do know. The people know. Same difference. So don't let that do throw you at the beginning. That's just what English speakers do with questions. So the men know. We probably want hoi, anthropoi. No will be ginosko, but we want the third plural form, so ginoskusi. How are we going to handle in the assembly? Well, we could, in the assembly, of course, prepositional phrase en, followed by the dative. The assembly is he ecclesia, so en te ecclesia. We could stick it between the hoi and the anthropoi. Hoi, en te ecclesia. Hoi en te ecclesia anthropoi. Or we could put it in the other attributive position. You see what we're doing? We're treating a prepositional phrase as an adjective, putting it in attributive position to show that it describes the men or the people. Which people? The people in the assembly. Do these people... Oops, there we go. We could also do that. Hoi anthropoi, hoi ente ecclesia. Ginoskusi. Do they know that the prophet? Obviously, hoti is what we're looking for. Giving the content of what is known. The prophet is teaching the slaves about the law. The prophet is the one teaching, so we want the prophet in the nominative case. Hoi prophetes. Something just happened there. There we go. Is teaching, or just teaches, that's didasko. But we want the third singular ending, didaske, the slaves. The slaves is the object of teaching, so we want an accusative for ha doulos. That would be tous, doulos. Keep doing that. About the law. That's a prepositional phrase in Greek also, using peri, followed by a noun in the genitive case. Peri tu namu. Wow, I have forgotten too much here. Tu namu. There we go. The Lord of glory sends messengers. The Lord sends messengers. Lord is the subject, sends is the verb, third singular, messengers is the object. So, ha kurios. Ha kurios. The Lord sends messengers. Pempo means I send. We want the third singular, so that becomes pempe. Messenger, angelos. Messengers, accusative plural, angelus. Or I think angelus. Now, it's not just the Lord, but it's the Lord of glory. Of glory, looks like in Greek we'd handle that with a noun, glory, in the genitive case. The Lord of glory. Tes doxes. Sends messengers from heaven to the children. From heaven to the children. Two prepositional phrases giving us the direction from whence the messengers come and whither they are going. So from heaven is apo or ek. I'll go with apo. Uranu or tu uranu. Either is fine. I think apo tu uranu is more idiomatic Greek. Not that you'll have to worry about that. Either way is fine. To the children. I would go with pros here as opposed to ace, because pros means, toward, in the direction of. Ace tends to mean more into a space. So probably pros. The children. Teknon, accusative plural, ta tekna. Which children? What kind of children? Of earth supplies that answer in English. A genitive of the noun ge, earth, will do it in Greek. We could say ta tekna geis, or again, more idiomatically, ta tekna tes geis. Then, as we move to number 3, for the sake of the kingdom of God, we remain in the world with the faithful ones. We remain is the core of the sentence. That's the main subject and verb. We don't need a separate English word for we. We can handle that in the ending. Menomen. Meno means I remain. Menomen. We remain. We remain in the world. In the world, prepositional phrase, en, followed by dative singular of the Greek word for world. En to cosmo would work. We could also simply represent this as a dative, to cosmo, but we'll simply go with to cosmo. Here. We remain in the world with the faithful ones. Well, with in Greek is meta, followed by the genitive. So I'll go with that, meta. The faithful ones, probably just a substantival use of the adjective pistos, meaning faithful. And we'll want this to be genitive, plural, masculine. So metaton. Piston. Now, I haven't done the beginning of this yet. For the sake of the kingdom. For the sake of is generally handled in Greek with the preposition dia or huper. Since we haven't learned huper yet, we'll stick with dia, followed by the followed by the accusative. So, for the sake of the kingdom, dia tein basileon. Whose kingdom? Of God. In Greek, just God in the genitive would do. So we could write dia tein basileon theou, or again, more idiomatically, tu theou. Menomen en to cosmo metaton piston. I think that's right. You, just one of you, speak beautiful things out of a good heart, but you do not know the way into life. You speak, second singular, lego. We want the ending ace, so leges. You singular speak beautiful things. Well, probably agatha or kala. Kala is actually better. Kala being the neuter, hence things, the neuter plural accusative form. Leges kala, you speak beautiful things. Out of a good heart. Out of a heart is kind of the basic thing, so we'll want ek followed by the word for heart in the genitive. And then this heart is good, we're told, so we want a form of kalos or agathos that will agree with heart in gender numbering case. We want it in attributive position. So by the time we get all that together, I think we would end up with ek, tes. Let's go with agathos as our adjective. Agathes kardias. Again, we could have said ek tes kales kardias, or ek tes kardias tes agathes would also work. So there are multiple options. But you do not know. Ala, the strong adversative conjunction, but you do not know. Well, knowing is gnosko, I know. You singular, gnoskes, but we want that negated. U, gnoskes. But you do not know the way. The way, that's hodos in Greek. He hodos. We want accusative singular. Tain hodon. This is another of those cross-dressing nouns. He hodon. No, we want that. The way, which way? The way that goes into life. So to describe tain hodon with a preposition, with a prepositional phrase, I'm going to put that whole phrase in attributive position. Tes eis zoes hodon, the into life way. We could also write this tain hodon, tain eis zoes. Once again, I hope that any questions or problems you had with the homework from this lesson are solved by my comments, my thought process in this walkthrough. And as always, if it isn't, please don't hesitate to use email to get the answers that you need so you understand this fully.